earlier, a few weeks ago, we did a video about forming this triangle and making your investment decisions based on knowledge, right? And how the majority of people make their decisions based on information. You know, they don't base it on knowledge, and then, you know, they choose the incorrect tactics because they're not based on information, and then ultimately their action is headed in the wrong direction. So I wanted to expand on this a little bit. And what type of knowledge do we mean is really around these things. Is you need to understand things when you're investing, like financing, like U.S. properties, and commercial investments. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Is that a lot of times right now we see a lot of people focusing information on buying U.S. properties, and one of the things that drives us up the wall is people advertising foreclosure tours in the U.S. to Canadians, or properties for pennies on the dollar, is the catchphrase that's used. Now, if you just base your decision on that information and don't have a base of knowledge on those properties, you may be headed down the wrong direction. And here's what I mean. When you're buying U.S. properties, you need to be working off the knowledge and understanding of the communities that you're buying in, so the fundamentally correct areas to invest in, and things like currency. You know, the knowledge that you should have behind buying U.S. properties is, well, how does the currency affect your properties? So for example, if your property in the U.S. happens to go up 20%, which I think we can all agree in a 1 or 2 year time frame is a lot, let's say that currency goes down 20 or 30% relative to the Canadian dollar. Have you made any money? So just because you bought properties for pennies on the dollar, have you made any money if you sell that property and bring it back into Canada if the US dollar has decreased in value relative to the Canadian dollar? And that's the type of knowledge that you should be investing in, so that if you decide to buy US properties, that you're basing it on some fundamentally correct strategies. Now let's talk about commercial investments. We see also a lot of people that want to invest in commercial properties. Maybe it's strip malls, or maybe it's condo developments not even finished yet. Here's something to think about. In the world right now, there's a little bit of a credit crisis. So if you're working with somebody who's going to do a commercial investment, whether it be a strip mall or a condo conversion, you may want to have an understanding of the commercial lending market. Because if you don't, and you invest in a project like this, how are you going to get your money back if the financing doesn't proceed and the project come to completion? What is your exit strategy if you put money down on a project that's not even started, and especially in today's world? How are you getting your money back? Now, having said that, there are some excellent commercial property developments in Canada. We know some great people who run different syndications and do this thing, and they are of high integrity and high caliber. But at the same time, there is a lot of suspect stuff going around as well. So you want to really have a really good understanding of how these projects go from beginning to end. Don't invest on the hope and prayer of some cash flow or some forced appreciation of some sort in these properties. Have a really good understanding of what you're getting yourselves into. All right? So there was something else that we want to talk on this base of knowledge here. We covered commercial investments. That kind of went with financing, and U.S. properties we talked about. Another thing that you want to learn about is inflation. You know, a lot of people learn about, talk about real estate investing, and they learn about rental properties and student rentals, but there are some underlying things that affect all your properties. And this is one of them, inflation. So let me ask you something. Now that the U.S. government has decided to spend a lot of money, what does that do to things like inflation over the next 12 months, over the next 3 years, and over the next 10 years? And now that Canada has jumped on the bandwagon and decided that they have to have their own stimulus package and run deficits for the next several years, what does that do to us in Canada? How does the government come up with that money? And what does that do to things like inflation? And how does that affect the property that you buy? Your property is a hard asset. Is that something that's good or bad? You know, and it's likely good. But these are the things that you should be focusing on, not just the headlines you see in the paper. You know, when you talk about these kinds of things, you need to come from a place of knowledge. That's what gives you the security and the confidence when you make decisions, because you're making your decisions off knowledge, and hopefully you're using systems. And that knowledge or experience combined with systems is the key to investing, and the ability to handle pressure. That is the key to investing. There is a lot of money to be made in real estate, but there are some things that just don't seem to be discussed. So if you want to be involved with a group that is working together on this stuff, is many of you know, we've been working locally. We're in the Burlington, Ontario area with over 300 different investors since about 2006. We've been investing ourselves longer, but it's been about 300 investors from then until now. And we've had a lot of requests to work with Canadians across the country. So now we are opening ourselves up, and we're starting a new program for Canadians that might not be in our local vicinity here. So if you're interested in working with people who are more focused on making accurate decisions, about surrounding themselves with people of integrity and taking right action and expanding and personally growing through the whole process, then jump on board. We'll put a URL at the bottom here where you can learn more, and come on board. We'd be glad to have you. We'll talk to you soon.